So Clint Eastwood himself doesn't actually show up in this movie, but there is a scene where Sully is going for a jog in the middle of Times Square, and what does he pass by? A Gran Torino movie poster. That's how you do an in-joke, folks. Hi, I'm Tyler, and I'm here to let you know that Sully is no perfect movie. So in Sully, we see the true life story of Chesley Sullenberger, played by Tom Hanks, who in 2009 landed an airplane in the Hudson River after both its engines were damaged by a bird strike. He saved 155 lives, no one was killed, but when reporters and random bystanders begin to invade his personal life, and investigators claim that he could have landed in an airport without any incident whatsoever, Sully begins to question his life and his abilities as a pilot. Tom Hanks gives a very subtle performance that doesn't rely on him giving loud speeches of huge range where he just loses control, but rather on his soft-spoken, naturalistic line delivery and his reactions. Whenever he's told that there's a possibility that he made the wrong choice, you can see in his eyes that he's afraid of that possibility being true. But based on his knowledge of the incident, he quietly stands by his own claims and uses it to call these accusations inaccurate.
I had to rely on my experience of managing the altitude and speed of thousands of flights over 4 decades.
There are characters like his first officer, Jeff Skiles, played by Aaron Eckhart, or Laura Linney as Sully's wife, that aren't really given as much depth as Sully. But when Eckhart has a quiet outburst of the accusations that his friend is facing, or when Linney reacts to all the reporters outside of her house, you do feel like you understand what these characters are going through. Linney does tear up during phone calls with Sully, and Eckhart always looks at his best friend with admiration, and so do we as a result. Sully seems like an odd film for Clint Eastwood to direct, but for the most part, he does bring his own unique style to the film. When focusing on a particular character during a scene, Eastwood frames that character right in the center of the frame so that the audience can focus on the actor's performance or what that character is looking at or feeling. When cutting from Sully to a news report on TV and then back to Sully, the audience can quickly register this information due to the staging, and it does help bring more attention to the actor's performance as a result. The scenes that take place on Flight 1549 are very intense. The plane is photographed in massive wide-angle shots, all for the most part done on IMAX digital cameras, oddly enough. And considering Eastwood has spent most of his career in a time period where almost everything was shot on celluloid or was done completely practical, the crash, whether it was done with little CG or not, looked completely photorealistic. There were a lot of practical stunts ranging from like a helicopter drop to a boat cruising through the Hudson. It really did look as if the cast and crew were in the middle of the Hudson River the entire time. One of the things that really surprised me about Sully was just how unpredictable the story was. Eastwood knows for a fact that we know as an audience that everyone on the plane does survive in the end. So as a result, he puts a lot more emphasis on things that we as an audience wouldn't know, like whether or not Sully did in fact make the right choice and should be claimed as a hero. When Sully witnesses these very intense simulation scenes that the investigators put up to claim that he risked 155 lives on impulse and could have made a quicker and safer decision, Sully begins to show signs of confusion in his eyes. His face is covered in shadows to illustrate this, and as a result, the audience still roots for him because we know that he means well, but are still concerned that he may have made the wrong choice and did put so many people's lives in danger on something that he didn't know for a fact could work. There are some scenes that are told entirely from the perspective of some of the passengers on the plane before they board, and I get that you really need to have a little bit of character development at least for these characters, and some of these scenes do work, like when these characters are bracing for impact or helping other people evacuate the plane and tend to their wounds. But it's mostly because these actors are so convincing at being in shock while also being aware of other people's needs. And the backstories of these characters really didn't add anything in my opinion, and they just felt like filler. And there's also some sequences where Sully begins displaying symptoms of PTSD that are never really focused on for very long. it does make sense to keep the focus on the incident and whether or not Sully made the right choice, but you'd think that he'd have more visions of what would have happened if he had made the wrong choice. Sully effectively portrays the true story with accuracy and respect thanks to Tom Hanks' nuanced performance, Clint Eastwood's very efficient direction, and most of the extras portraying the passengers. And for that reason, I'm going to give Sully a 3.5 out of 5. Guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, check out my other reviews at NoPerfectMovie.com. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care.